Using AI without context is kind of like going to the doctor's office and saying, "What's wrong with me, doc?" without having given them any symptoms, any test results, any history. And if they give you an answer without asking any clarifying questions, I'm about to be talking to them about their license. But if they did give you an answer, it would probably be generic and not helpful. And that is the biggest mistake I see people make with AI. They ask, what should I focus on? What are my priorities? Should I take this opportunity? And then they get some generic answer because AI doesn't know their life. It doesn't know their goals, what they've already tried, what they got done last week. Of course, the answer is generic. That's why I built a system where the context lives outside of AI. For me, that place is Obsidian, and then I use Claude or Codex to pull from where that memory lives. The biggest shift for me was realizing I don't want Claude to be my memory. I want Claude to access my memory. Same with Codex or any other new AI that comes about. Because the models are going to change. There will be different players in this game, but the memory doesn't have to. Because when you have a memory, you actually get to plug in the other AIs to it. You keep one memory vault and you let AI do the rest. That's the whole idea. This is what Obsidian looks like. Here's my dashboard. It's very, very basic. It's a bunch of MD files. I use it for the source of truth for my life and business context. As you see, I have things like my current season, annual goals, life context, business context, projects, weekly reviews, agent skills, notes. And that's what I like about Obsidian. You can see everything visually, but at the end of the day, it is just some MD files, which is what all the AI uses. If you look at ChatGPT or download or export, you're going to see it's an MD file, which is just a basic text file. I own the files. I can move them. I can back them up and then let Claude read them or let Codex read them. And if I switch AI tools later or something happens and it crashes, I have a backup. The part that I think is really important with AI is that I don't need each of my AI agents to know everything about my life. I don't need my life coach to know my exact offer stack, pricing, lead generation framework, and the nitty-gritty details of my business. And I don't need my boomerang bot, aka my email response agent, to know every little detail about my life, whether it was my health, relationships, fitness. It doesn't need to know that. I don't need it to be responding with an email and be like, yeah, I can't get with you at 2 p.m. because I'm going to a gyno appointment. You don't want it to have all of that information. That would be wild. Each agent pulls the context it actually needs. My life coach has the access to a lot more context than my other AI agents have. It has it to my life goals, my 5-year vision, my current season, my priorities, my projects, my to-do list, where my Boomerang bot reads my pricing, my lead types, my business model, messaging guidelines, and objection overcomes, how I like to communicate. The agent needs a much deeper business understanding. Then my schedule might pull my goals, my commitments, my priorities, what rolled over from last week, what absolutely needs to happen. Different job, different context, but same memory vault. And this is where the system gets even more useful. These agents aren't just reading the context. They can update it too. It kind of is broken down like this. They read the context, do the work, and then update what's changed. The next agent sees the latest and most updated version. And so I'm not manually having to update my entire life every single week. My current season is just a rolling picture of what's been happening the past few months. What I'm focused on, what's changing, what's been challenging, how I'm feeling, what matters the most right now. And then my life coach can read my weekly to-do list, what I need to get done next week, my calendar. And so it has a very accurate depiction of what my current season is, not what's going on 6 months ago. And so when I ask a prompt, like, hey, what should I get done next week? It knows the answer because it has a very up-to-date idea of where I'm at in life. And to go back to the doctor analogy, it's kind of what I also see people that do give context in ChatGPT, but don't have this memory system attached. Imagine going to the doctor's office in the same example before, but you gotten a little better. You gave the doctor the symptoms, your history, your pattern, and they wrote all the notes and they're like, copy that. I know exactly what you should do. And they leave the office and they come back 5 minutes later and you're like, all right, doc, what should I do? And the doctor's just like, can you explain everything? I have no idea. I lost the chart. That happened to me so much with AI. You gave all this context and then 3 days later you asked about the same problem and it just could not remember. And so that's why it's so important to have this memory part, so that when you're asking these questions, you're constantly getting answers with the context. Obsidian is the doctor's chart, to put it simply. Obsidian are the notes. And I keep all of that stuff in Obsidian along with my AI agent skills. And context is a little different than skills. Context is, what does it need to know? A skill tells AI, how do I want this work done? To give an example, like let's say I'm using my video agent skill. Like let's say I'm using video agent and I have Obsidian, I have a context. I might say I have a personal brand and I want to help people optimize their lives and systemize and have fun and live intentionally. It'll have all that context, but it doesn't need that to actually video edit. Video edit is going to be, here's how to pace, here's where to cut filler words, here's how long I want my gaps to be, here's the brand assets I want, and the motion graphics and everything else, like the really nitty gritty of it all. And it's pretty crazy because when I keep all this stuff in memory, I can have my Claude brain and my Codex use the exact same file and create it. And it is different because it's different models and different brains, but it's the same prompt. And so that's the powerful thing about having a memory system like Obsidian. And so it's just really, really important. And I wanted to kind of walk through the why of this before I go into the nitty gritty of the technical and setup in the later videos. But pretty much when I make my scheduler agent, a generic one, if I'm like, hey, what should I work on? It might tell me to time block. It might tell me to put things in the calendar. It might tell me, hey, figure out your priorities, but it's all very generic. Where my scheduler is like, you let these 3 things drop. You need to get them done this week. Your pattern, your behavior is telling you this. And it's very, very detailed, and it saves me a lot of time because it memorizes things that I didn't even remember. It was like, you need to call your doctor about the content trial you did. It's like, what totally had slipped my mind. And so it just keeps me on target and it constantly updates my calendar. And I want to really emphasize this. Memory is important, and keeping everything in Claude or Codex leaves you very dependent. And if you have years and years of this data that you've worked on and put a lot of time into, and it's gotten to kind of learn you, don't leave that up to chance. Have a local and a backed up iCloud version or a backup cloud version. Because ultimately you'd like the model and the brain to be replaceable, but you want your memory to be yours and you want to own it. The simplest way to look at this whole system, Obsidian is the memory, the AI agent skills are the playbook, and Claude and Codex are the brain. Each agent pulls only the context that it needs, then it can update the context so that the memory stays current. And that means I'm not starting from scratch every time I open up a new chat box. I'm not retaining every AI tool. I'm building one living memory that different AI brains can plug into. Using AI start feeling more like a system and less like just a chat box. And in future videos, I can go through exactly how I set up my Obsidian Vault and how I plug in Claude and Codex to it. But in the meantime, I'm rooting for you. I believe in you. Go live life intentionally.